Hiya, hiya, it's Joey Reynolds back on my porch. Hey, we're looking at the economy, and I noticed that the names of the new groups that are being presented, they always come up with wonderful names for their musical performances in this generation. Oh, my favorite would be Waitress Sweat. And what else? Runaway Inflation. That would be a good name for a group. They name these things after reality-based discussions with each other. In my family, there's no such thing as a reality-based. And as a matter of fact, the prices are so high this year that I went into the Publix deli section and I asked for $2 worth of Swiss cheese. And the guy wrapped up 5 holes. Now, this is not funny because everything's going up. And even the cost of turkey. We're going to have a virtual turkey this year. Who wants to pay that kind of money for something you never like to finish anyway? But that's what we do. It's a tradition. Thanksgiving. I would be thankful if the gas prices went down. That's my idea of Thanksgiving. Why don't we give the country a gift instead of giving us more work that we don't qualify for anyway? I mean, can you see me building a skyscraper or repairing a bridge or filling a pothole? The only pot that I would, yeah, you know that joke. Anyway, I think somewhere along the line, we got to come to grips with the idea that we're fucked. Oh, why am I laughing? And the thing that's happening with some of these people on television, they ought to go to trial. They're putting all these murder stories on television and all of these crimes, and they're opening the newscast with who shot who and mistreating the police. Don't you think that art imitates life and life imitates art, and people are looking at this and kids are watching it? That's why they caught a kid yesterday going to school with a loaded gun in his knapsack, 2 kids as a matter of fact, 15 years old. And if they didn't track them, they could have gone and done damage, because that's the way it is when you see something on TV or you're playing video games where there's a reality check. I mean, we have people in front of these things. When I lived in Harlem, I used to watch that grand auto theft, and I thought, what am I watching this for? All I got to do is go outside. I said, if my car ever gets stolen, it'll be returned immediately to the same spot in my neighborhood. These are the people who are robbing the cars, nothing to do with color. But besides, my neighborhood was not a color neighborhood. My neighborhood was more Hispanic, which is the largest minority in this country. And you see where John Leguizamo is doing a voiceover on a Disney film on their 60th anniversary. It's the first all Latin animation film. It's a feature film, and showing that the Latin community they need superheroes. Latin community doesn't have superheroes. I wasn't thinking about that till he mentioned that. But you see, everybody wants a piece of the pie. $7 for pumpkin pie this year. Maybe you just want to. Maybe you can only afford a crumb. Forkful. Yeah, well, you can go fork yourself with all the stuff that's going on. Did I swear again? And you know what? This is the way it goes with our society right now. Our language is so different. We've adopted that urban culture so that we can be hip, or is it hep? We used to be hep, now it's hip. We want to be acknowledged. We want to be accepted. That's what the social networking is. And the Tortuga Festival they have in Florida, they've had that for every year, not for the last 2 years for obvious reasons. But it's 30,000 people every day, and there's a lot of money, and that's Live Nation. It sounds like something Indian. So what we really need to do is to stop all these festivals. Woodstock, which I attended, was it was spontaneous. It was not something that anybody planned. Some people planned it, but not to the extent that it was. And nobody had there was no violence. You know why? Because we were there for each other. Now that's different. Now that doesn't mean that you don't have a fan base or everybody who likes Luke Bryan or Adele. A big deal. She's going to be interviewed by Oprah. I like to hear Oprah be interviewed by someone. I'd like to interview Oprah. And let me go back over that one. I could do a good job with that one. While I'm on the subject, they're doing The Secret Life of Paul Lynde. Come on. I mean, if you're my age, you remember him from Hollywood Squares and the TV shows that he was on. He was a wonderful comic, and in real life, he was a drunk. But so was I. So I used to drive him home. And we lived around the mountain pass on Blue Heights Drive in Los Angeles. Are you kidding? We're lucky we're both alive. And I used to drive his car. He would drive his car down to the gallery room in Santa Monica, and he would get loaded, and I would drive him up there. Paul was my neighbor. And you know what? He lived next door to me, and I used to never talk to him at all in the early days. I knew who he was. He didn't know who I was. I didn't have that celebrity fame. You know, I didn't have the recognition. I wasn't an influencer. So, Paul, oh God, you guys who want to be famous, you have no idea what you're in for. So Paul Lynde, he opened up the door to his house, and he'd come out with a sack full of bottles from drinking, I suppose. I don't want to accuse him of that. But I would come out with my sack of bottles, and the garbage cans were out in front, and he would come out and unload them. I would see him, but he never had any recognition of me until one day they had returned the garbage cans after they were picked up by the city, and they were close to each other. So he had to acknowledge me because it would be really uncomfortable to not say anything. And this is way before I used to drive him home. But you know, Paul looked at me and I looked at him. I'm emptying the garbage. He's emptying his garbage. He looks at me and he says, "Hello, trash person." I was known for being a garbage collector or disposer. But I didn't even separate the garbage in those days. Yeah, I did. There were certain people I wouldn't talk to. So that's it. I mean, I wanted to give you a brief rundown. They got the supersonic jet. I was on that, on the Concorde. Back in the day, as a matter of fact, my flight partner was my family, the two girls and my wife, and the Concorde only sat 80 people, you know, and it went into Mach 2, which is where the supersonic is. The reason that we don't have it is because it makes a noise over the land, but not over the sea. You wouldn't hear it over the ocean. So it would go from Kennedy Airport, they go into Mach 2, and then go across to London or Paris, which is on the water. So that's what they did. Now they have a new one, the U.S. Navy, Edwards Air Force Base, and I think it's Fairchild. Is that the name of the? It's not Boeing. It's the other big manufacturer. They're making a supersonic jet, so you can get to L.A. from New York in two hours, if they make this for commercial flying. No windows. Well, they would shatter. On the Concorde, we had windows. They were very tiny. You know, they were like those windows that you get when you can't afford an expensive cruise. It's called steerage. They had a name to describe it. See, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, and you know, history is wonderful. When if you've lived it, it's a lot different than if you read about it or if you're seeing a movie that someone interpreted because they lived it. And that's what social networking is. My big complaint about social networking, not that I don't think people should communicate, and I love everybody, I love people. I think what's wrong is that we are fed something from the media and then we bring it to each other on social networking. So we already are carrying bad information. Hello, trash persons. We're full of garbage. Did I swear again? Anyway, it's a Reynolds wrap. I wonder if they censor this. It's a Reynolds wrap.